The sleek black car cut through the rainy city streets, headlights slicing the foggy darkness. Inside, the driver held the wheel firmly, glancing often at the mirror. "No room for errors tonight," he whispered. In the back, the woman straightened her dark jacket, fingers grazing the icy metal concealed underneath. "Just make sure we arrive on schedule," she answered firmly, tone low yet authoritative. Thick tension filled the small space as the vehicle turned onto a poorly lit alley, aiming for the deserted warehouse at the city's outskirts. Whatever lay ahead would alter everything. Retreat was no longer possible. Oops. At least now you have some shade. You look as washed out as his affection for you. The red wine struck my chest before I noticed the glass tipping. My stepsister Caitlyn offered no apology. She stood there in her tailored morning outfit, grinning while the deep blotch expanded over the single black dress I possessed. Around us, the murmur of the funeral gathering halted at once. "Don't just stand there soaked, Jazelle," my stepmother Brenda barked from behind her. She pushed a weighted silver platter into my palms. "If you're going to resemble the staff, you may as well behave like it. Pour the champagne. Guests need drinks." Before I reveal precisely how I erased that grin from her face for good, leave a comment and tell me where you're tuning in from and what time it is for you right now. I'd love to know who's joining our circle. The kitchen door closed sharply behind me, cutting off the party sounds like a blade. The air inside was chilly, clean, and carried the aroma of lemon cleaner, the fragrance of my existence for the past 5 years. I moved to the sink, seized a bottle of soda water, and began rubbing the wine mark on my chest. It refused to fade. The crimson spot lingered like a bullseye. I gazed at my image in the metal refrigerator. I am 25 years old. I hold a degree in business administration that I gained in evening classes while tending to Grandpa Arthur's oxygen equipment during the day. Yet to the crowd in the next room, I am merely Jazelle, the awkward remnant from a union they wish to erase. For years, I posed the question every target asks, why? Why was Brenda so vicious? Why did Caitlyn, who possessed looks, wealth, and liberty, feel compelled to trip me in corridors and splash wine on my only outfit? Was I truly that unworthy of love? Was I truly only a weight? I ceased scrubbing. The response had nothing to do with me. It never did. It stemmed from the parasites' illusion. Grandpa Arthur served as the host. Brenda and Caitlyn acted as the parasites. They drew from his fortune, his position, and his reputation. But parasites carry an innate terror of the body's defenses. They despise anything that signals they are not the organism itself. I represented the body's defenses. I was the one who clipped his nails, recited the financial updates to him, and clasped his hand through the morphine-induced terrors. I was the sole person who elicited his smile without demanding payment afterward. They did not despise me for lacking skill. They despised me because I served as the reflection, exposing their own repulsiveness. Each time Grandpa regarded me with warmth, it highlighted that their link to him was entirely self-serving. To endure that reality, they needed to diminish me. They needed to recast me as the staff so they could view themselves as the rulers. It formed a mental requirement for them. If I remained human, they became beasts. Thus, I could not stay human. I glanced at the damaged dress. Allow them their illusion for another hour. Permit them to believe this mark defines me. They assumed they were shattering me by forcing me to attend them. They failed to see they were merely granting me an ideal vantage to witness their downfall. I wiped my hands on a kitchen cloth. The attorney, an anxious young partner called Timothy, would announce the will in 10 minutes. I anticipated no fortune. I anticipated no property. Grandpa and I had reached our understanding well before his final breath, but I understood one truth clearly. Arthur Sterling never acted without strategy. I straightened the front of my marked attire, raised the silver platter of champagne glasses, and returned to the predator's arena. The solid oak doors of the study remained shut, enclosing us with the odor of aged documents and avarice. The family attorney, Timothy, occupied the end of the grand wooden table, resembling a boy in oversized clothing. He fixed his spectacles, fingers quivering as he lifted the bound folder. Brenda positioned herself to his right, already adopting the pose of the mourning spouse, yet her eyes stayed arid and keen. Caitlyn browsed her device. Bored, I lingered by the entrance, gripping my platter, unnoticed. We assembled to review the final testament of Arthur Sterling. Timothy started, his tone faint. The announcement proceeded just as they anticipated. To Caitlyn, his cherished granddaughter, he bequeathed $5 million in currency available at once. Caitlyn actually yawned, mumbled, "Fine," and resumed with her device. $5 million. Dismissed with a yawn. To Brenda, his loyal spouse, he bequeathed the luxury apartment in Manhattan and a lifetime interest in this exact residence. That granted her permission to reside here until her passing, though she held no ownership of the title. Brenda grinned, a content, predatory twist of her mouth. It matches what he desired. He understood I could never abandon our residence. Our residence? She had passed every cold season in St. Bart's griping about the chilly corridors. And at last, Timothy declared, clearing his throat. He regarded me, sympathy in his expression. To Jazelle, the space fell quiet. Brenda pivoted, her stare fixing on me. Continue, she pressed. Let's discover what he granted the staff. Timothy reached into his case and extracted one slim, discolored packet. It was fastened with adhesive tape. It resembled an item from a forgotten drawer. He pushed it over the glossy surface. He left you this. I advanced, my limbs weighted. I retrieved the packet. It held no weight. Brenda seized it from my grasp before I could examine it. She elevated it toward the overhead light, narrowing her eyes. Then she chuckled. It was a rough, explosive noise. It is likely his unsettled hospital costs, she jeered. Or perhaps a schedule of tasks he neglected to assign you. She flung it back onto the surface as if tainted. He realized you were accustomed to serving, Jazelle. He withheld funds because he held no affection for you. He understood you would not manage it properly. You simply lack class. The phrases did not sting from their harshness. They stung because a tiny, fearful section of me accepted them. I examined the packet. Was this all? Was this truly his view of me? Merely the girl who maintained the equipment? The granddaughter unworthy of even $1 from the fortune he created? Brenda reclined, sipping her champagne. Don't appear so sorrowful. We will permit you to remain in the staff area for several weeks until you locate housing. The ache in my chest sharpened so intensely I struggled to inhale. It concerned nothing about wealth. I would have dwelled in a box if it secured his devotion. Yet this quiet from beyond, felt like dismissal so complete it risked vanishing me. Allow me to dispose of that for you, Brenda offered, her tone slick as lubricant. She extended over the surface, her polished nails targeting the pale packet. Rubbish goes in the rubbish, Jazelle. We prefer you avoid collecting waste in the residence. It draws vermin. For the initial time in 5 years, my form acted ahead of my thoughts. I grabbed the packet from the wooden top with velocity that surprised us equally. My seat scraped loudly on the flooring as I rose. Do not touch it, I stated. My tone stayed soft, unsteady, yet it no longer resembled the compliant attendant. It resembled a caution. Brenda drew back, her palms suspended. Pardon? Did you just elevate your tone at me inside my own residence? I am departing, I stated. I sought no approval. I pivoted and exited the study, pressing the slim paper form to my chest like protection. Behind me, I caught Caitlyn chuckle. Release her, Mom. She likely wishes to weep in the storage closet. She erred on the spot, but she erred on the weeping. I avoided my quarters. I headed to the butler's closet, a slim, lightless space linking the kitchen and dining area where I had devoted countless hours buffing utensils. It stood as the lone spot in this vast home that offered security. I secured the entrance. My palms shook violently. I nearly tore the sheet while opening the fastening. I extracted the items onto the chilled stone surface. It was no invoice. It was no task roster. It was one plain white note card. On it, in script that appeared forcefully inscribed, were 10 numerals, a telephone number, and beneath it, one phrase in Grandpa Arthur's distinct, uneven penmanship. Call when the wolves bare their fangs. I gazed at the words. Air escaped my chest swiftly. He understood. He grasped precisely their actions. He grasped Brenda would ridicule me. He grasped Caitlyn would attempt to delete me. He had not provided this packet as a final slight. He had supplied it as a tool. He had not forsaken me. He had equipped me. I retrieved my device from my apron pouch. The display was fractured. Caitlyn had unintentionally dislodged it from a surface last week, yet it functioned. I entered the number. It sounded once, sterling legal. A tone responded. It was not Timothy, the anxious young partner in the study. This tone was profound, gravelly, and demanded immediate esteem. It belonged to a man who consumed threats for meals. I recognized that tone. It was Mr. Sterling, the head legal advisor for the full Sterling Holdings. He was Grandpa's oldest companion and the most dreaded courtroom fighter in the region. Brenda had pursued an appointment with him for months, yet he ignored her messages. "Hello," I murmured. "This is Jazelle." A pause followed on the line, a weighty, meaningful quiet. "I recognize who it is," Mr. Sterling stated. His manner was not dismissive, it was respectful. "I hold the protection unit prepared, and the ownership files sit on my desk. I anticipated your call, Madam Chairwoman." The earth shifted beneath me. Madam Chairwoman? What did you just name me? The title to the property and the decisive portions of the Sterling organization shifted into a secure fund 6 months prior, he explained, speaking rapidly yet distinctly. You stand as the exclusive recipient and the operating leader of that fund. You control the firm. You control the holdings. And crucially, Jazelle, you control the residence you occupy. I viewed the pantry entrance. Beyond it, Brenda consumed champagne that was mine, occupied a seat that was mine, marking a triumph that held no reality. Are you prepared to claim your position at the table's lead? Mr. Sterling inquired. I brushed the final drop from my face. It was the final drop I would shed for those individuals. Yes, I replied. I am prepared. Enter. I thrust the pantry entrance wide and advanced into the corridor. My image in the corridor glass drew my attention. I remained in the attendant's attire. I retained the wine blotch on my chest. My locks stayed drawn into a strict servant-style knot. Yet something within my gaze had transformed. The young woman who once recoiled at Brenda's tone had vanished. In her stead stood the leader of the Sterling Holdings. I entered the study. The mood swelled with smug avarice. Caitlyn already searched online for high-end vehicles. Brenda spoke on her device, probably boasting to one of her coastal acquaintances about the Manhattan apartment. Upon noticing me, Brenda barely glanced from her device. She merely stretched her vacant champagne glass toward me, clicking her fingers. At last she uttered, her tone uninterested. "Refill me, Jazelle, and attempt not to drip this time. This flooring is delicate." I stayed motionless. I declined the glass. I simply positioned myself at the table's lead, straight across from her. "No," I declared. The space turned utterly quiet. Brenda lowered her device gradually. Her eyes tightened. "Pardon me, what did you just utter to me?" I said no. My tone remained composed, firm, and audible enough to fill the space. "I have finished attending you, Brenda." Brenda rose, her features reddening to a risky crimson. "You thankless tiny parasite. You believe because your grandfather granted you a bit of paper, you can develop courage? Depart. Depart from my residence before I summon protection to eject you." That proves unnecessary. A profound tone echoed from the threshold. The twin entrances parted widely. Mr. Sterling advanced, flanked by 4 figures in dark attire who projected an entirely distinct form of command than the occasion guards Brenda had engaged. Timothy, the young attorney, nearly tumbled from his seat. "Mr. Sterling?" Timothy piped. I was unaware you would attend." Brenda appeared puzzled. "Who is this?" Mr. Sterling disregarded her entirely. He proceeded directly to me, halted, and inclined his head faintly. "Madam Chairwoman, the boundaries stand protected. Your unit stands prepared, Chairwoman. Caitlyn chuckled, a tense, elevated noise. What does he discuss? She is the attendant. Mr. Sterling faced them. He unfolded a dark leather folder and positioned one document on the surface. It was not pale or aged. It was fresh, pale, and marked with the formal stamp of the authorities. This constitutes a transfer document, Mr. Sterling proclaimed, his tone occupying the space. Completed 6 months earlier. Arthur Sterling shifted every property asset, including this property, and 90% of the decision-making equity in the Sterling organization into a secure fund. Brenda rotated her eyes. So, who directs the fund? My spouse clearly assigned it to me for oversight. No, Mrs. Sterling, Mr. Sterling stated, his grin narrow and keen as a blade. He did not. The exclusive director and recipient is Jazelle Sterling. Brenda stiffened. She examined the document, then me, then the document once more. That violates law. He could not have. I am his spouse. He granted you the apartment and the currency as a parting settlement, Brenda, I stated, advancing. He sought to ensure your ease while you departed. Yet he placed no faith in you with his heritage. He placed faith in me. This is my residence. Brenda yelled, striking her palm on the surface. I possess entitlements. Actually, I stated, lifting the champagne bottle she had requested. I emptied the costly fluid onto the flooring, the delicate flooring she fretted over. You exist as visitors in my residence, and you have lingered past your invitation for a moment. Brenda appeared struck. She stared at the document, her torso rising, her features a crumbling facade. Yet then a gradual, spiteful grin formed on her mouth. It was the grin of a hunter who spotted a gap in the enclosure. Clever attempt, she cooed. She delved into her bag and extracted the duplicate of the testament Timothy had supplied. She turned to page 4, her motions brisk and uneven. You consider yourself clever, small one. Yet you overlooked the condition. She struck her digit on the sheet. Examine it. Section 7. Irrespective of property shift, Brenda Sterling maintains a lifetime interest in the main dwelling for the span of her natural existence. She elevated her chin, eyes flaming. I hold the lawful entitlement to remain here until I pass. You may possess the residence, Jazelle, yet you cannot expel me. I will dwell here and ruin your existence. Mr. Sterling merely inclined. She stood correct formally. The lifetime interest signified Grandpa had assured she would avoid homelessness, and she intended to exploit that kindness. Brenda yelled at the guards to exit, declaring we were the invaders. For an instant, she prevailed. Yet self-absorbed individuals never halt upon prevailing. They ruin. Her stare fixed on the Ming vessel, the most valued object in the space. Before I could intervene, she seized it and cast it downward. It fractured like a blast, fragments sliding over the stone. She smirked, anticipating sorrow. Instead, Mr. Sterling serenely turned to a fresh sheet and recited aloud. Brenda's lifetime interest carried conditions. Any intentional harm to the Sterling collection canceled it. The vessel stood as item number 1. 4 lenses captured all. Brenda's entitlements dissolved. She became an intruder. Alarm supplanted rage as guards detained her. I directed them to escort her out and summon authorities for major vandalism. She resisted, yelling she controlled the residence, yet it concluded. Caitlyn fled. The entrance banged, and calm settled into the space like fresh breeze. Sterling completed the shift. Once they departed, I examined the shattered pottery and discovered a concealed snapshot. Grandpa embracing me as an infant, with a note on the reverse. My utmost treasure. Drops arrived not from sorrow, but liberation. Grandpa had not granted me a vessel. He had granted me evidence of devotion and acceptance. I emptied Brenda's champagne, raised a glass of water toward the moon, and murmured, "To us, Grandpa," and to rubbish removing itself. Freedom carried a crisp chill.